We are back. We are back. We are back. Greetings, greetings. We are you're through to the Mad Poet podcast. I am your host, the Mad Poet, also known as Alex Murdoch, to lovely audience and readers, especially to my other type of audience, story audience. Um, Great to be here. Positive, feeling good, and here with a good friend of mine, writer, artist himself, budding future author. Still doing a lot on in the grapevine, doing his thing, Mr. Strings. A lot of
Yes,
theories,
sir.
I know he's been growing it for a while now. And you know, he's on his path, man. So I'm proud to see it. How you doing, String?
I'm good, man. Enjoying the weather much as I can.
Positive, positive. It's good, man. Obviously I'm doing the same.
Mm.
And I just say I can't complain because winter was a rough one, and because of that, man, I mean it's great now, but I'll be honest with you, I've been good since spring.
Okay.
When it's just not freezing anymore. It's cold, but it's not
Yeah,
freezing.
yeah, yeah.
I've been good since spring, so I don't really have complaints like that or anything of that nature because I'm sort of used to the cold to a degree, especially after winter or like the first 2 months, 3 months into the cold, like say autumn and beyond that. So you sort of just get used to it.
I know what you're
But
doing, you know.
that, what did you say?
I seen the topic. I know what you're doing.
No, but I just well, as soon as you mentioned the topic, I suppose we could just get into it. Um, well, nature versus nurture. That's something I thought it would be good for us to explore tonight. I'm sure I have a few ideas why you'd say you know what I'm doing, but yeah, let's get into it. Nature versus nurture. So what I like to see is perhaps see where we stand in terms of like our viewpoint and
Mhm.
what we perceive over the years and understand about it. So where do you stand when it comes to nature versus nurture? Could you tell me a little bit about how you see it?
Right now, nature, I always thought it to be um, you are the way you are. And a larger portion of that is true to an extent. How you are perceived and how you do certain things are just they make you unique in the same sentence. But now where I am in life, playing on that word so much also dictates to your environment. So um, a large portion of that is what you are surrounded by, and on a further scale, what is always in your thoughts constantly. You are what you think. And nurture is what you do to condition yourself as an individual.
Yeah, and I suppose maybe at best I should have given more context on things. I guess where I really want us to go in is now, and not to say that you're wrong anything in terms of like what you gave, but I also I want to see what is it to you or what you understand of it, but also I want to take a grasp on how you see whether what's the best route in terms of like going about things and to accomplish to ascend. Is it the route of being the nurturer or just letting nature take its course? And I guess maybe I'm using that as somewhat of a generalization, a more of a
Hmm.
general term. But ultimately, what I'm looking in my head, the reason is sort of a relative term pointing towards um, more the idea of the uh, the mentorship. Speaking of like success manuals, templates, and figuring things out. Now, as you know, there's a lot of people that in this world that, for the most part, they don't have a mentor. Whether it's a proclamation of misfortunes or fortune in itself, to have the right to choose, or you have the nurtured, whether it's the fortune to be idle and foolish, but still have somebody to lead you out of the darkness, lead you back on the right path, or misfortune where you have somebody to lead you, but perhaps they lead you down the wrong path, you know? So that's the sort of juxtaposition that at work that I really wanted us to explore. And that's why I really trying to get your idea, but really and truly, that ultimately I want to go down the road of like, what do you think is like, first, let's look at society. What do you think we're seeing in this day and age? Are we seeing majority the majority being nurtured, or are we seeing a lot of people, meaning they have a mentor, they have a lead, they have somebody to lead them, or are we seeing a lot of people that's trying to um, somewhat just rely on nature to just take its course and just show them the way, or just like intuition and just instincts to figure things out in the end? Now, there's a sweet spot somewhere, in terms of balance and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, what are we looking at in society today? What do you think people are leading with in terms of that type of dynamic between nature and nurture?
Really appreciate the context. That really opens the floor to where you're trying to go. Because yeah, that's highlighting a lot, and it's funny enough because I asked a similar question to someone about the state of things on a different topic. But first question, I'll go for um, nature. Um, simply, although not simply, um, because if you study what and who you are, it'll
Yeah,
help you find answers to where you're trying to go and what makes sense for you. Now, I wrote this a few weeks ago where I said, just because it makes sense for you doesn't mean you should go ahead and do it. I.e., um, if you have good grades and your whole family or your friends are telling you, oh, you should go and study this course or whatever, but you're miserable, it's it's a lot more complicated than that. But um, those are the things that I see that just because it makes sense, you should go and do. Because why? It'd be very hard for you to see yourself get to a stage where you can grow into why you're doing something. Um, so once you figure out more of who you are and what makes you tick, then you can start to find the pieces um, to lead you on the path to success that you will commit to. Um, and secondly, I really think right now society isn't following anything. They're really not. There's no nature or nurture. Nature, um, they're just trying to find a shortcut to either being sustainable or someone's doing content, let me do it, or like what industry, whatever it is. And the nurturing part, I think, because of the internet and online courses, a large pool of it has been contaminated by people selling other people's material to someone else. Um, so someone who genuinely wants to be nurtured, um, it looks tainted because it's like, all right, you even see someone saying, "Oh, I've made millions of pounds online or whatever. Now I'm going to teach you this course for £50." After a while, it's like, mate, I've met people who really make money like you. They don't really have the time or the schedule to create such a program to sell it to you for £50. Like, so yeah, that's my 2 cents on those questions. Uh, Mike, bro.
Got myself muted in that. um, in my head, I could be wrong. No, I think more times than not, people or they're even yeah. I just go with the way I see it in my head with
As
what
you
I
should,
think.
please.
Um, I don't necessarily think. I think it's either one or the other. I don't think they're simultaneous. It's either nature or it's nurture, but they could be intermittent in terms of there's somebody is doing it once, like you have someone like who's very impulsive. They might choose nature today. They might choose nurture tomorrow. I think that's as
Mm.
close as it gets. That's what I mean in terms of like there is either one or the other. Um, because it's and more so for people that would try to do that, it would make sense. So in essence, I would say if I had to choose
Hmm.
between what I see in terms of like the majority and what they're doing, I would have to say nature, meaning this lack of knowing, lack of information, lack of being
Hmm.
informed, lack of understanding, lack of insight into the journey. And I think a lot of times it begs the question: do you understand what you're getting yourself in for in terms of man? And yeah, I'll even add to that. If you don't know what you're getting yourself in for, it begs the question: did you actually make a decision to initiate this need to accomplish in the first place? I'll just say it like that. Because without that decision, that means you haven't really fully thought out the journey and what comes with it, or like the idea or the ideals behind it. So how are you gonna are you do you even think preparation comes into all this? So this is what I mean by nature. In essence, what I'm saying is nature is pretty much you learning on the job.
Yes.
You get what I mean? So and I'm not there's certain there's a lot of situations that it can't be helped. It's not your fault, and that's fine. I think in those situations you're supposed to do what you can, but at the same time, in my opinion, I think it's your job to still nurture yourself. What I mean by that is be informed, man. Like do your research. Um, and I've heard this word so many times this week. Develop a community.
Hmm.
Reach out to people that understand, um, that share your values, if nothing else, because I think that's where the definition of brother in terms of like the worldly or a cultural or tribal. Now, I don't believe in tribalism, but in terms of like a group or just two or more, let's put it like that, two or more, not necessarily a group,
Hmm.
but two or more. I think that's where it starts in terms of like to say somebody, we share kinship in
Yeah.
terms of ideals. I think that's where it starts. If you're not, if we don't share the same values and we don't share the same understanding or viewpoint on the world, not necessarily like, exactamundo, because we're always gonna, differentiate or because we're individuals. But in terms of like values or like um kinship with ideals, you know, for example, like we're still gonna have similar outlook, but we're still gonna be us. We're still gonna be individuals.
Mm.
Um, if it's not like that, then how can I call you my brother? You know? So that's just one thing I'm just saying. It's just you have to somewhat educate yourself. And I think education is just the beginning because after that, I think that's where the journey actually starts. Or it's if you have no choice but to learn on the job, it's like while you educate, it's like step by step. So it's like one after the other increments. But I'm saying like as you grow though, as you take step by step to get to stage, then the next stage is like I learn today, I implement tomorrow. I learn today, I implement tomorrow. They have this saying that if I if I'm learning, I'm not implementing the information or using it, then the learning is pointless. You know,
Mm.
why am I learning if I'm not going to use what I learn? So I think that's one way. If you're going to be somebody that's um, traveling the natured aspect, well, the natured route, meaning that you have no choice but to go this route. I would say that's the only reason why you choose this route. But I would say for the majority, I think everybody is going that nature route, learning on the job, and more times than not, it's like you're going around the back to come through the back, as opposed to just going linear straight for the front door. But I think that can only happen if you're somewhat well versed in an understanding of who you are as well as your journey. I guess what I'm saying is a lot of times what I'm seeing is people going 10 steps forward and having to come 9 steps back just to correct themselves because they made so many mistakes and made so many um, decisions that was unnecessary for one, time wasting, waste so much time in the process. And you have no choice but to go backwards. to get to where you need to get to anyway. But even that in itself is so much. It's grind. It's a grind because again, it's frustrating. I have to go all the way back. Do you get what I mean? I have to go all the way back just to go forward. But the door's right there. But guess what? I've taken the wrong road and I'm at a dead end. I can't grow any further. I can't go any further. I can't go through. I can see
Sounds like the life of man.
see the finish line. I can see, to get to the next milestone, which I want to get to so badly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like an iron. It's like a transparent door that won't open for me because I took the wrong path. This path wasn't for me. And I think now
Ooh.
I know, I know, I know better now. But at the same time, this knowledge comes with a cost. It comes with repercussion. It comes with pain because I have to admit that I was wrong after all this trying, after all this time, just putting in this work, and I end up here. And so this is I guess what I'm summing up is my viewpoint on how I see nature and nurture. I think nature, I think nurture unnecessarily, sorry, let me say that again. I think nature unnecessarily is somebody going around the back door, all the way around the building to get back to the front door. And I think nurture is just a linear. It's already proven. You get to dodge all the snake pits, the jumping over definitely alleys and stuff like that with all the robbers over there, and all the mountains with ice picks and everything on them. You don't have to climb all of that. Now the road is hard, but it's for you. So you're built for this. But you don't have to do all the excess unnecessary things that comes with going round the back. Go on.
To add to that with a question, what do you say about people when they get to a certain stage in their lives and then they require the nurture, i.e., a young apprentice who's done all that he can and then he's like, look, oh, this is the next step. What's your thoughts on that?
You find a mentor that knows more, that knows the next stretch.
So is that them admitting that they're wrong in some way? Not saying that they
No,
are, but just to like expand on what we've got going on here, because this is a good space.
nah, it's not them admitting that they're wrong. It's them admitting that, for where I've been, I am master of that. But for where I'm gonna go, I have not mastered that yet. I don't know enough. Let's go talk to somebody with the blueprint that's already traveled the road that I'm about to go. That's already waiting for me on the other side. They're just giving me guidance to get to where they are, or giving me the information or the map to allow me to travel down this road without making so many mistakes, getting scrapes along the way. Thus, I get there in one piece efficiently. Because to me, And the reason why this is so relevant, again, is time. You're wasting so much time. And it's the one thing you can't get back. It's the one thing you can't get back. So ultimately, no matter how great you are, if you waste enough time, you're going to end up um, cutting yourself, cutting your journey short. And ultimately, that for me, that's the biggest disjustice for yourself, for anybody,
Mm.
is to cut your time short. Because in this journey that we live, time is the most expensive currency we have. So if you're gonna do that to yourself, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And I also think that's something that comes with being, nature driven
Mhm.
unnecessarily, taking the hard road as opposed to just taking the efficient one. You have the floor, sir.
Um, what my brain can't help but do is see what we're saying from so many life paths of different people.
It's 21 hours.
Yes, sir, it
Right.
is. It wouldn't be the MP podcast if I didn't hear that. And I think I'm glad I'm seeing what you're seeing from so many different paths of people I've come across or I can see, because it just highlights how unique all our journeys are to get to where we're trying to go. Um, but nature, there's just going around the building. It just makes for a cooler story. Like, have you so real? Like, um, because you'll get to a space where when we're in that arena of
Mm.
people who've done amazing things or are doing amazing things, some will be nurtured throughout the whole way, but what they will always struggle to have or develop later is that finesse, that grit, um, of what did the president say? I shaked a lot of hands and I kissed a lot of babies during the campaign runs.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't do that, then um, you don't have that confidence in yourself to sustain what's on the other side of that transparent door. Brilliant analogy, by the way, because with it being transparent, it means that you don't have the capabilities or the trusts for that door to be fully there yet. And if you go through it, it's like you'll be walking into a world of filled with smokes and mirrors, and it will
Mm.
collapse, so to speak. Um, but yeah, nah, really, yeah, really great point, bro. Honestly, and I think it's touching on right now because it makes me think about what you're saying about community as well. I just made a note. Um, I've been repeating it a lot this year as well myself. But what I like to personally do is change the definition of things. I feel like words evolve over time. Like I never look at the word and the definition and say, yeah, that's it. That's all I'm accepting. Like, no, they're living things. They help um, carry what it is, the emotion we're bringing to what it is we're trying to express. So when you're saying about how two people, two, three share similar values and going to where they're trying to go collectively is what I completely agree, because it's not about, I've never been part of a large group of a community be like, yeah, we're all trying to do this. Like, brother, no. Like, I always meet the individuals, the lone wolves, and we go the distance, but they're doing their thing, I'm doing mine. We'll cross paths if necessary. And that's community for me, because it's like, although group is nice and I know people who are in groups, but it's, it's not a fairy tale. You get me? So, but what is necessary is for us to realize there are the gap in what we're trying to achieve as individuals and for the space we're trying to get into is getting larger, and we are the ones that need to close that gap with our own hands. Otherwise, it will just be written for us. And I think that's
Yeah.
what a lot of us are not trying to do. It doesn't matter the industry, we're all trying to make noise. So it's a beautiful thing in the midst of the lack of mentorship. Like, take the brother, what's his name? Manny, the scientist. He took his TikTok platform to help educate a younger generation about science. And that's taken him to great heights. And, for anyone who wants to share more educational content on these platforms, they're going to see that as like, wow, they get views, they get sponsorships, they get recognized for something that they are always learning about. So why not? That's a good thing to have an image to be like, this is what I will mold in my own way and pursue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man. I hear you. Obviously, I don't think there is no wrong or right way about this. There is only the effective and efficient way. Now, so this is pretty much because we're talking about time. That's the priority. That's the priority at the end of the day. So, but in essence, let's be real. There's always going to be a first for something, but we're also talking about necessities. If you're not the first, then that means plenty more likely, especially in this day and age, a lot of people have done it already, which indicates that there's a lot of people that can show you how it could be done. It also indicates even deeper that there's a lot of people that know how to do it efficiently, get it done in less time than you would probably get it done if you were to go at it independently by yourself without really knowing what it takes to get there. So now you're doing trial and error, trying to figure it out. Now, if you're who you think you are, or you have what it takes, this is. I also believe you would get there, but how long would it take for you to get there? Because at the end of the day, that's the ultimate question. That's the ultimate solution.
Sorry.
You've got to, like I said, you have to think about the time that you're wasting. I mean, let's just put it like this. You have a lot of people that reach success and they've taken such a long time to get it. And as soon as they get it, they run themselves ragged through in terms of like their health, where as soon as now they're great, they have success, but they don't have the health anymore. You've Because everything comes with a sacrifice. So now you're in a place to enjoy your life, but you don't have the health to do it. Do you get what I mean? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, yes, there is sacrifice, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's what it takes to get to that place, regardless how you get there. Now that's the question. How do you want to get
Absolutely.
there?
Mm.
How do you want to get there? Do you want to get there with one leg missing? Do you want to get there when you're on your deathbed? Because all these things are possible if you're not taking into account the road and the journey and the things, the shark infested waters, and all these different things that's going to be at play. Um, I think you can only sort of suss out and um, sort of just make, like, predict and develop protocols to avoid certain things through wisdom.
Yeah.
And more times than not, you're only going to get wisdom from people that have been where you're going. As they say, the wise person, he doesn't learn from his own mistakes, he learns from others.
Yes. One of my favorite sayings.
So why would I go and make a mistake that somebody has already made, as opposed to just asking somebody and knowing what that mistake looks like to avoid it? So that's pretty much where I'm heading now. Why is all this relevant in the first place? As we know, especially in our community, there's a lot of fathers that are missing.
Mm.
Let's blow it up. Let's go even further. In the world, there's a lot of males, but then there's not a lot of men. So in a situation like that, just talking about manhood alone, as you can see, there's not a lot of figures that, people growing up, young men, for example, um, can look to for leadership and know-how and to understand or to ask about some of the situations that may arise, that they might find themselves in, and to get the right answers to somewhat be able to find their way out without risking or putting them in a situation where they risk their freedom, they risk getting in a place where they're hurt, they end up being scarred for life, trauma situations that will follow them for a lifetime, for the rest of their life. I mean, even in this subject, trauma is a situation. I mean, we know soldiers that go through it like that all the time. Not to say we're speaking that extreme. We're not going to go to extremes. But at the end of the day, we know that there's a lot of things in this world that we go through that it haunts us. It potentially could haunt us for the rest of our lives. Again, we mentioned health. We spoke about health earlier on. That's a part of health. Whether you're talking mental health, emotional stability, all these things are facets of health. And I would say if you're not right in one, then that's going to screw up a lot of different other variables pertaining to health that could come back. And absolutely, no matter what success you might think you have, it means nothing if you can't enjoy it. So if you're compromised, that's a problem. That's a problem. So my thing is, why try to solve an issue when you could just avoid having one in the first place? Why spend a lifetime trying to solve an issue if you can avoid having that issue in the first place? You know?
I think that takes a lot of wisdom in order to want to do that anyway. Because with nature, so with the topic in mind, I mean the title, there's an excitement that comes with it. In our community, like wanting to make those decisions, see it for yourself, and why not?
Mm.
Um, like we spoke about, heartbreak is inevitable for man. That's one of them. But what he does with after that
Yeah.
is what he then thus needs to be mindful from. But for other instances, um, influences, life and death, the journeys that one might want to pursue, um, like I genuinely believe, and funny enough, science is starting to back this up. If you
Mm.
want a certain outcome, things do gravitate towards you. But the thing that always I find very interesting and sad to see at times when it's not practiced is when the solution or the experience that could give you insight to what you want isn't dressed how you would like for it to be appealing. And I believe it's done on purpose for that exact reason.
I agree. But
Because
Karen,
if it wasn't, things would be, like you said, it would be nurturing. Like, oh, a guy in a flashy car, showing you his list of credentials saying, this is why you should take my advice. It's never that straightforward. It could be someone, a teacher in schools. Um, I've been very fortunate to be able to thank the part of me that listened to someone that has experience. That comes from my tradition as well. Like, listen when an elder is
mm,
speaking.
yeah,
But then practicing that is what helped me decipher what information was worth taking on board. And then applying that ever so often is what
yeah,
fine tuned my ears to be able to pinpoint this is what I should take. And then the age, person, shade, color became irrelevant because that is what helped me understand that we're all people on a similar path while we're here. You never know where the gem might come from. And then you take all those nuggets and you put it together and you create a roadmap for yourself. Um,
yeah.
but
But
yeah,
what you just
it's
said, sorry, I thought you
mhm.
finished.
No,
Go
no,
on.
no, 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 yeah.
Now I was gonna say with what you just said, you said just that point, the ending point. You don't know where you're gonna get gems from. So that I would have to say, even a broken clock can be right twice a day.
Hmm.
Do you get what I mean? Just in the
Absolutely.
sense where, yes, you might get gems here and there from even the worst person in the world in terms of like wisdom, right?
Mm,
But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be wrong all the time. But how many times are you going to ask that one person and they're going to consistently give you the right advice,
yeah.
as opposed to the other person that, again, broken clock, right? So, but more times than not, this person is going to give you, and I'm saying this person because he's consistent. Not only that, but he's lived it. He has the template.
Mm,
He's got the blueprint that works, and he's showing you. And there are people out there that are willing to share. I think these people that we're speaking about in terms of like, giving, like having blueprint, etc. I believe these people want to share. They want to give back
Definitely.
because why would you not want somebody to be and be as fulfilled or feel as fulfilled as you have known the knowledge and the experience that you've been through and what is kind of brought to you as a person? Why would you not want somebody to experience that? I think for me personally, that's why there's so many people in this space or across the board that they reach a certain stage and giving back becomes so important. It's to the point where it's not just, it's a responsibility almost,
I was going to ask you if there was a word you had to describe that. Just in time.
I would say it's a responsibility. You feel obligated, you know.
Hmm.
It becomes an obligation. I think also, like even what we do, I think we may have touched a little bit on certain parts of it, but I say like this: being a creator, I think you get to a certain stage, and the creating part of it, that's the that's where you find your satisfaction as the creator.
Mm.
But the expression part of it, because I think also that if you're gonna go to like say stage, etc., that falls into the realm of responsibility. But I think the expression ultimately is the responsibility. That's you fulfilling. Sorry. I also the main part I want to add is that the expression part of it is the that's the part that people benefit from. That's the part that it's your responsibility, and that's the part that they benefit from.
Yeah.
And you ultimately find happiness in the creation process, but they find happiness in witnessing your creation being expressed.
Mm.
And so through that transition, there's a reciprocal situation going on. But through that, there's a form of community there as well.
Yes.
But also you're fulfilling your responsibility, and I think that gives you satisfaction. So there's so many ways that you find gems or you find things that makes it worthwhile. But again, I think sometimes if you're not if you don't if you begin in a hard knock place and your vision becomes so skewed, it's hard for you to kind of dig yourself out this hole and clear your lens to
Yeah.
actually have visuals that don't seem like the world is tainted. Because I think a lot of times certain people they speak from a tainted lens, and they just can't get out of their own way. They can't clear their visuals to actually see that the world is not as dark as what they have been experiencing. It's just that you're still in a bad place in your mind though. and you're just a tough person that's lasted longer than your situation, which doesn't exist anymore, but you still think it does. And so you're speaking from that experience, which you left back a couple of years ago, and you're still living it. And now you're about to impact my life. You're about to impact my life with your situation. You're about to project and just create battlefields for me around them. And so we're about to be brothers in arms because I somewhat let somebody in that I knew didn't know any better. So now it's like, man, I'm about to be blind like you, and nobody's leading anybody. You know, we're just moving about, you know, head on a swivel, running in any direction. You know, that's how I see it.
Oh, yeah, dangerous.
Bro, I think you've got to think, man. That's what I'm saying. Make the right decision for yourself. Put yourself first. Put yourself first. You know?
Definitely. Just to add, um, I get why people don't think. I said in one of my pieces that reflection is becoming a lost art.
That's deep.
Mm,
That's powerful.
because it's so much more than just replaying a scenario. It gets to the point where you even forget parts of the scenario that you keep replaying. So you just focus on the pain aspect of
Yeah.
it. Whereas what artists do of all backgrounds, they take that pain and transmute it, and with that, they grow into another version to help them appreciate all facets of what that scenario put them. But doing that is very tough, and explains why these times are the way that they're in. It's not many are willing to do it. And I think in the same piece, I said that the internet is pacifying other people's journeys, as if to say that whatever they do, they pat them on the back and say, yeah, you did something terrible, and that's okay. You shouldn't take ownership for your actions. And it's like, that's very dangerous in doing that, because what becomes with that is you put that into, like you said, exactly what you said, you put that into an art form, you put that into a curriculum, you put that into many other things that people didn't ask to be a part of, and then they just sat here and you're just like, when did I have to make a choice with what you struggle to get through? So it shines, man. And a lot of books from a sci-fi aspect of as well have always said that free thinking will be a sign of disobedience. We're close, if not there already.
Oh, we've been there, man. But that's powerful. I would agree with that. It is a form of disobedience, but I think it's an evolution from what we've been seeing recently for about what, a decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's an evolution from people being frowned on for telling the truth.
Yes.
And so it's evolved. Yeah, it's evolved from there. Um, But yeah, it's some powerful points. Some powerful points.
Definitely.
This world, man.
It's a trip.
It's a trip, man. It's a trip. But it runs deep. But I think a lot of things I see these days, when I really break it down to the root of it, to the bare molecule, it all comes back to culture.
Elaborate.
Huh? Well, what I mean is, at the end of the day, you're not raising your children. The culture you're in is raising your children, including the chaos that comes with that culture.
Ooh.
You get what I mean?
Scary.
So, so you might, for example, you might say, "Oh man, I have a typical like, let's say this family, a broken family, like, which is so common these days.
Mm.
I have a father that's chaotic, right? That's the narrative, but he's not around. But everything around the child reflects what his father is like.
Yes.
Or for example, if you flip it, chaotic mother that's not around, but the environment reflects what the mother is like.
Mm.
Speaking of the culture, then by default, the child will become just like the parent, just as chaotic.
Yeah.
It's like does exactly what it says on the tin, like exactly that.
Mm.
You know, and more times than not, it comes with a weapon. It comes, ready to start nonsense for no reason. That's the thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with defending yourself, but when you're, antagonizing without, I think that's unfair. I think that's wrong.
Do you think, or do you agree with the statement when things like that are being carried out, it's a cry for help?
In certain situations, yes, it can be, but at the same time, that's also a reflection of the culture
Mm.
because he wasn't taught correctly. I think that's another form of nature,
Mm.
nature playing its part because that's fear driven as opposed to controlling your fear, which is what any father for a girl or a boy would administer. Control your fear or control your emotions because that's the source of fear, isn't it? So control your emotions, thereby you control your fear. So it's not necessarily mean you're not scared, but you control how you express it.
Yeah.
So by right, you should if that means you have a moral code. So you would choose to express the fear not through violence, but maybe speaking or writing or speaking to somebody about it, but not imposing your physical on somebody else.
Mm.
And more times than not, certain people, like we said, even if it's nature, you get to a certain point because morals, from what I understand, is not necessarily. Um, yes, it's taught in this day and age, but moral is something that you, as a being, as the human, you develop to understand your life. So if nobody taught you right, you get to a certain point where you learned through worst case, like we say in nature, that nah, this is not right. You know, what I'm doing is unfair, etc., etc. But
Yeah.
you get what I mean? But
Yeah.
mm,
No, I agree. I think the face I'm making is just that what I wanted to say in regards to the question I asked you is that um it's very costly as a human being um if they don't pick up certain lessons when they are in that developing stage of what their nature is when they're young, when they're still at home. To an extent, obviously, we know some situations in aren't favorable to some of these young people or people in general, but it is, I feel, if they don't pick it up soon, it's like 100 steps back that they take. Um, and it's more cutthroat the older they get because no one owes you the time, the empathy, the compassion to teach you certain things. And if they do, I can't help but see those people as very, very, I call them light beings in the flesh, because
mm,
if they know how much to give you while knowing what they have going on for themselves as well, that's a very high level intellect individual, I feel. Because too much can make you sick as well. Another one of my favorite things is if you care too much for the person who's ill, you then become ill as well. So who's taking care of who? Um, and what you're saying about culture as well is it's crazy nowadays because the internet is raising the next generation, and with the amount of things that aren't being filtered or the things that are being pushed and more digestible,
mm,
yeah, the opinions that will be formulated in the next decade will be very interesting to hear, because
oh
I
no,
feel
no doubt.
any lick of truth that will be shared from someone who's experienced, who's gone through nature and nurture, it'll just be questioned with, well, but um, I don't have to tolerate this right now. I just don't feel like dealing with it. And it's like, well, life doesn't stop for nobody. And if you put that off just because you think culture is encouraging you to be at a stalemate of not learning certain
Mm,
principles, you're going to take 1,000 steps backwards. So
yeah, absolutely. And with that, strings, I give you the last words.
um, be yourself and find out how to do that at all costs.
Mm,
It's not a
absolutely,
game
man.
out here.
Absolutely,
It really isn't.
absolutely. Yes, folks, that's us for tonight. It's been great.
Always.
Appreciate things for coming through. Yeah,
Thank you very much, man.
and another talk of madness, as they say. And please, if anybody's watching these lives that we're doing, um, show support and subscribe. follow the channel, follow Strings channel as well. That's at Strings Theory. And we'll keep leaving links to each other's channel, these lives. And yes, thanks so much for the support so far. And we will keep building for sure. So,
Definitely.
lots more to come for this summer. Take care.